I hope you enjoy this podcast. It's with Lucio Cecchinello, an old friend of mine. As you'll hear, I was at my mate's house, Steve Brogan's, helping him dig some footings. So I think you can hear some clanking of wheelbarrows in the background. And his two lads, Benji and Brody, were playing as well, so you might hear them. So apologies for that. Not that you'll be bothered, I'm sure. But as far as swearing goes, I don't actually think there's that much. I think it's probably just me again. So you've been warned.
Hello there, welcome to Gas It Out. We are here once again ready to talk to another guest. Bit of a different angle we're going with this time. A bit of a different angle actually for Neil. I'm still in the back attic office. Neil, I can hear birdsong. Are you on an adventure? Are you exploring?
I'm on an adventure. I'm social distancing, though. I want to get that out there before the thousands of complaints come barreling in. I'm in Liverpool. I am at Steve Brogan's house. Steve Brogan, the British Superstock champion, a very good friend of mine. We've been friends for, literally since 1995, I think. He's building an extension out the back of his house, adding on to his kitchen, and he needed a cheap labourer. #free. So
you're not building any walls, are you?
No, we're not. We're a long way from that point, I can assure you. I've turned up today, and my God, there's some work to do. But
really?
It's brilliant because Brog is, like I say, one of my best mates in the world. Funny as. His wife's amazing, Tiga. His kids are absolutely brilliant as well. So we're on for a good day doing a bit of work. And actually, my back's already aching, so I'm glad we can sit down and do this podcast, and I've got a bit of a rest. So
really?
Let's stretch this one out. Let's stretch it out, guys.
Digging trenches, are you?
I am, yeah, literally, yeah.
Brilliant.
It's good fun.
Yeah, I bet. It makes a change from spray painting, doesn't it?
Exactly. Jack of all trades, master of none, as you know.
I didn't say that. I didn't want to say that.
I think before we do any more small talk, I think are we time for the big announcement?
What's that big announcement?
Well, the big announcement, right? Anyone who's been following the podcast will clearly know that you've been trying to get Danilo Petrucci for, I'm going to say 6 weeks now. It could be 8.
Give over.
You've
That's
promised.
Not true.
You've let people down. I've had people in tears ringing me up, going, I thought we were going to have Danilo Petrucci. And to be honest, the ratings of the podcast have gone down because
wait
of it.
Wait a second.
Hang on, no, it's like...
The person in tears was me.
No, hang on. It's like, Gav's clearly full of shit, and which people that know you will know that you are. But anyway, I got to the breaking point and decided I'd get in touch with him. He came back within an hour, and we're going to do him on Thursday. It's Tuesday right now, so if you need something sorting...
Apart from speaking,
just remember who sorts shit out on this podcast. All right.
Yeah. I've sorted today's guest out, and I sorted the last guest out. Just you chill your boots a little bit.
All right.
Anyway, and I noticed that you had to use my name to get him to say yes as well. I've seen the message.
No, you saw the message. Obviously, I sent it to you. Did you like how I explained?
Posting, exactly. Yeah.
Me and Gavin Nemeth from BT, you know, the one with the beard, a bit weird looking. Yeah. But yeah, he came straight back, so that's good. So it's pleased we've got him in the bag. So,
yeah, but I'd so love it if he was motocrossing or going out dirt track training that day or something. That would make honestly, it would make me giggle. It would make me giggle.
This could be embarrassing, couldn't it?
It could be. So you've been out labouring, doing too much. Do you know what? I've not been doing too much here. I'll be honest. Just watching old races. 2017 next on the greatest years for that. I've been doing a bit of cooking. You know, I've turned into a 1950s housewife, Neil.
You've always been a bit wet.
Exactly. I've got a sourdough starter on the go and things like that. It's just like, what is wrong with me?
Talk me through that picture you sent me yesterday. That looked good.
Oh, ramen. It was ramen yesterday. Basically, we have a ramen off.
Oh, no, sorry. I was thinking of another picture. No, sorry.
No, that was the noodles.
Lads. What was his name anyway, that guy? Anyway, go on.
His was an udon noodle. Anyway, we have a ramen off, myself and Neil. We're both big fans of the
oh
Japanese
my God,
ramen.
I can just hear people just turning off. We have a ramen off. And literally, people will be going... First of all, there'll be loads of people going, what's that? There'll be other people going,
I was just about to explain. We go to Japan a lot. We've been to Japan. And when you go over to Japan, you love a bowl of noodle soup, basically. And we love a noodle soup. And you always claim that you make them. I reckon it's always Vic, your girlfriend. But anyway, I made a pork one last night, and it was slow cooked, amazing, just lovely. Unbelievable.
If it tastes half as good as it looked, it must have been amazing, because it did make my mouth water when you sent me the picture.
I've been to get like the black sesame seeds to put on top and everything, and it was just a bit of chili in it. I had shiitake mushrooms. Honestly, it was just and pork belly on top, which was filth. But you know what? It tasted all very good. Anyway, so that was what I've been doing, to be honest. And do you know what else I've been doing? I've been getting wanderlust.
Go on.
I've found myself looking at. I'd love to be in. I was looking at Le Mans. And then I found something else in France, and then it was like looking at beaches and stuff. And then it was like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to be on holiday? I was just dreaming about, that we'd be going next up. We'd be going to Mugello, and we'd be going to Barcelona. And we usually have a couple of days in between, and it was just like, oh, how amazing would it be to go on holiday right now? That sort of thing. So I had a proper wanderlust going through from one page to the next wouldn't it be? Yeah. So I had one of those. Oh, well.
It'll make us appreciate it, won't it? Certainly, obviously, if everything gets back to normal, certainly next year, I think we'll all appreciate what we're doing a lot more. Everybody I've spoke to from our team, from BT, because I don't know if people realise, I think I've mentioned it before, but there's 28 of us travel around together. It's a big setup. And
it's not the same 28, is it? It's probably a pool of about 40, 50 people. A lot of them have lost their jobs at the moment.
I know. It's
a few of our colleagues.
All the freelance. For the freelancers.
And it's rubbish. People who haven't got any work at the moment and struggling to get by. So but we
just one thing, Gav.
Go on.
I've just realised I'm not recording on my iPad. Do I need to?
No, don't worry about it. I've got it all recorded here.
All right. Okay,
I've got it all recorded here, and you actually sound quite decent today. Maybe a better signal there. Maybe it's the birds in the background. I don't know. So let's talk about today's guest, Neil. Coming up now. Now we've spoken to current riders, we've spoken to current riders of all sorts of disciplines and ex-riders too, but we haven't spoken to anyone in the unique position that we find Lucio Cecchinello, who of course himself was a very accomplished Grand Prix rider, winner of 7 Grand Prix, set up his own team while he was racing, but since then has had a team, graduated into MotoGP. He's had some great riders in MotoGP, started with Casey Stoner when he went into the top class. But since then, he's had the likes of Carlos Checo, who went on to be World Superbike champion, Stefan Bradl, who was a Moto2 champion. And over the last 5 years, one of our most recent guests, Cal Crutchlow, he has been his team boss, which is an unenviable position. Really,
it's going to be interesting to hear what he says about Cal. We already know he loves Cal, by the way.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he's got plenty of stories for us.
And I know Lucio really well. I've known him for a long time, and always got on really well with him. He's one of these proper, down-to-earth, good guys, properly good, who loves the sport, and that's what it all comes from. It's just love for the sport. But someone, Neil, also who's a workaholic. Like, he does not stop, and actually he's been sleeping and living in the team workshop recently. We're going to find out why he's been doing that, but. You can just tell by the fact there's 2 main sponsors for his 2 riders and so many little sponsors. He works hard, doesn't he?
Oh, that is a job you wouldn't want. Honestly, it's a proper vocation, isn't it? Don't get me wrong. I'm sure there are seasons where he's made really good money. He's got lots of small sponsors. He works hard, but there'll be years where he's not made money. There'll be years when he's had to bankroll it himself. He puts a lot of effort in. He's a bit of an all-round good guy. I've known him for a long time.
You'll have raced him, weren't you, when you were in 125s first of all?
I first raced him actually in the European 125 Championships back in 1992, and he was like a factory rider then. He was like Team Italia, incredibly fast, like miles faster than me. This was back in 92, and then luckily I managed to move up into full-time Grand Prix riding in 93, and he stayed doing the European Championships. I think he might have done a wild card or a few rounds. And then we raced against each other in 1994 throughout the season in 125 Grand Prix. And then we went our separate ways. He obviously stayed in 125s. He was a
career 125 rider.
Yeah, career 125 guy, which was quite common back in those days. Obviously, you don't see it anymore. And he just got better and better, didn't he? Faster and faster.
And actually, when the year he retired from racing, he was winning races. I remember him, I'm sure, his last Grand Prix win was in Italy. I'm sure it was a Mugello Italian Grand Prix was his last last win, and
Right.
in 2003, and he stopped that year. He had 2 podiums, and you sort of thinking, well, he still got it, but he was a veteran of the class then, and probably it was when they started bringing in the age limits, that kind of thing. But yeah, someone who is an absolute grafter, and it'll be interesting, Neil, for me. I just want to know how it's affecting a private team. You know, I've seen articles with Hervé Poncharal, of course, but he's sort of semi-factory now, supported a little bit by KTM. I've spoken to Davide Brivio, been in one of the Suzuki debriefs, and heard what it means for a factory team supported by Suzuki. But there's a team that just relies on Lucio and the sponsors getting the right money there, and has a raft of employees.
You can't even imagine his stress level. You know, seriously, that he'll be so anxious, and it will be interesting. What I like about him is, like I say, we've both known him for a long time. He's always stayed consistent. He's an open, honest sort of guy, and hopefully, I'm pretty sure he will be. He'll tell us what's really been going on behind the scenes. But for him, because he's so many sponsors, you can almost guarantee right now he's lost, well, maybe 20% of his sponsors. You know, and that's the difference between it happening or not. That's the reality. You know, to try and compete in MotoGP. So
and to even get a slot with him, Neil, we had to book this in because I wanted to do it back to back with Cal, so we had a bit of a balance, but. He said, I've only got an hour. He's got meetings constantly. He's doing stuff all the time. So actually, Neil, we've got a minute. So I better
let's get him on.
Better get him on. And that pigeon can go away.
Yeah.
Can you chuck a spade at it?
I'm trying to spot the bastard. I don't know where it is.
Believe that Lucio is there. Look at him. Oh, right here. I can see.
Yeah.
So, how are you, Lucio? Anyway,
not too bad. Thank you very much.
Can I just check that you can hear Neil as well? Neil's here as well.
Buongiorno, Lucio.
Oh, hi Neil. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to hear you too.
Oh, good man.
Guys, we miss being on track. Come on.
I know it's a disaster, isn't it? We were just talking. We feel sorry for you because obviously as a team manager in a like let's say a semi-factory team, not privateer team, but it's so difficult for you because of all the sponsors. Where are you with your stress level? Is it at maximum stress?
Do you have another question?
Exactly. Yeah. Do you want to take a vodka first?
Yes, exactly. Well, I would say this is a secret between us, you know. The alcohol consumption that I'm usually do, it's definitely more in this period because, I need to increase the red wine, especially in the evening, to avoid to wake up in sometimes during the night and not being able to sleep anymore.
We understand 100%. Me and Gav are the same, but maybe you more.
Yeah, because you've been. Am I right, Lucio, that you've been staying in the team workshop in San Marino?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah. Since March 13, I am stuck here inside of the workshop, living here, sleep here, eat here, wash my stuff here, and I took the opportunity of those lockdown period, those weeks of lockdown period, to reorganize the workshop. I mean, it was organized, but this time I make it perfect.
Well, I know you're a perfectionist. You're also a workaholic too. So was that because of the lockdown situation you got stuck in over in San Marino in Italy? Because you live in Monaco normally, don't you?
I live in Monaco. I live in Monaco since 25 years. In San Marino, we have opened a technical division when I was racing with Aprilia. In that period, Aprilia Racing had their facility here in this industrial area inside of San Marino Republic, and I opened my workshop here next to their facility. They left after a couple of years, and I stayed here. Inside of this workshop, in the past, we prepare all our two-stroke motorbikes because, as for sure Neil remember, that the two-stroke motorbikes needed a lot of maintenance and a lot of let's say test on dyno before going on track. Then we set up this working facility. Honestly, since we are racing in MotoGP, so since 2006, the workshop became more and more an hangar where you stock the material, the infrastructure of the hospitality. You stock, the material of the motorbike, the spare parts. But it's not anymore really a workshop where you prepare physically the bikes, because the bikes are prepared in Japan.
I bet you need a few spare parts when you've had riders like Cal and Casey. But Lucio, how come you've been staying there though now recently? How come you ended up living in the workshop over the last 2 months? Was that just a decision you took because you thought we're under lockdown, so I'm going to organise things? Because you've been sorting out like all your old trophies and all your father's old bikes and things like that, haven't you?
Yes, definitely. We let's say in about 10 days we will do a video of the workshop, and then will be a pleasure to share with you. Basically, we do have our all our team trophies are here, because fortunately they are a lot. We do have also a small museum with motorbikes, with our motorbikes. Not the MotoGP bikes. I mean, we have a couple of MotoGP bikes, but there are show bikes.
Yeah.
I mean, there are real MotoGP bikes of the past years, but we cannot turn it on. We do have two-stroke machine very well restored, and then we do have also a small museum with vintage motorbikes owned by my father. We have our graphic department here. We have a couple of stuff, and then I decided to stay here because it was already a couple of years that I always postpone to reorganize here. And now I said, okay, this is the correct opportunity. Stay here, stay home, and stay here and use this compound as my home for weeks.
Lucio, what about your wife? Are you on your own, or did your wife come with you?
I don't have wife. Nobody wants me.
Oh, bloody hell! Oh no, this has turned into some dating opportunity. So if there are any attractive single ladies, aged between, I'd say 35 and 50, Lucio is available. Just so everybody knows. Is that okay, Lucio? Anything more you want to add?
35, 45.
Okay. Just so everybody knows, Lucio's 50, so he's going definitely for the younger model there.
Lucio, as a team manager in a current situation where there is no racing, obviously your sponsors pay to be on the side of a bike, pay to be part of the team, coming to hospitality. But as a team manager, you have your employees, you have a rider. I know Cal's mainly paid by HRC, but how hard is it? How important, how critical is it for things for racing to start again for you?
Well, it's definitely definitely an hard period. First of all, during our 24 years of activities, we tried all the time to have always some reserve, some budget reserve in case of anything happen. Second, of course, we are LCR is composed by 50 members. 20 of them are officially employed. The other 30 are independent contractors. And what we have done in this period with the official employers, we use what we call cassa integrazione. I don't know how in English you say, when you put them home, but is the government pay them like 70% of the salary.
Exactly, it's the furlough. We call it the furlough scheme. It's a word that nobody knew existed in England or in the UK until this period. But yeah, that's what's happening here as well for a lot of companies.
Yeah. And then with the other contractors, the contractors, anyway, we give them some kind of advance on their on a salary that has to be reconsidered, taking in account the amount of races that we are going to do. So races and months that they are going to work. So basically, of course, I needed to talk with my staff and to renegotiate their salaries, what I have contracted originally, because of course we are not racing, we have no income at the moment. As you said. Our sponsor at the moment suspend the payments because we are not providing the contracted exposure, brand exposure, and the contracted services. We are anyway facing this period by using our reserve budget, and also thanks to Dorna that provide us some advance on what are the standard team contribution. So basically, in normal circumstances, Dorna should have provided us a certain amount of money, of budget, and of course they are just paying part of contribution. But with this part of contribution, considering that we are not racing and that we also freeze all our purchase with our suppliers, we are in a situation, tight situation, but definitely we can survive.
Which is good to hear, that you're able to survive and keep going. And because it looks more and more likely that July 19th and back-to-back races in Jerez, it looks like it's going to happen. Having seen the German football start this weekend, I know in the football is starting in Spain, and in Italy I know they're starting to train and that kind of thing. Are you positive that racing will begin in the middle of July?
Absolutely. Yes, I'm positive. I'm positive because I can't imagine how I can't imagine to be obliged to completely delete the championship, this year championship. What we have seen in China, for example, that after 3 months of a nightmare, they are now started back to be on a pretty normal life. And this is exactly what is happening because it's already almost 3 months that in Italy we are locked down, in France we're locked down, and then I think that realistically what Dorna have planned mid of July, end of July, it's possible, imagine, to have races with, of course, the correct safety and the sanitary protocols, close the door with public, no hospitality, but definitely we can make races, and we can at least provide the correct. I mean, we can provide enough enjoyment for our fun through the television channels,
which is a relief for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Lucio, a question. Obviously, a lot of people are out of contract at the end of this year. How does it work? Because there's always like the crazy rush to make the signatures to get people to sign early. We've already seen many of the top riders signing. Where does it leave you, this situation? Does it make it obviously even harder to make a decision or to make an approach?
Well, in reality, since a couple of years, since Stefan Bradl, our riders has been contracted directly from HRC.
Okay.
Bradl 2013, 12, 13, 14 was contracted by HRC. Cal 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20 was contracted by HRC. And therefore, our 2021 rider will be contracted by HRC again. So
okay,
is a kind of a common discussion that we will have together with HRC. HRC at the moment asked me to wait a couple of weeks more before to, let's say, think about to possibly renew the contract with Cal or to move on another project. They asked me a couple of weeks more because they wanted you know how Japanese are, very attentive, and they wanted to have a very clear scenario. And I believe that now with the COVID situation, they wanted to be sure that we are going to be back on track, and then from there I think that they will move on the further step to decide which rider lineup. But we already told HRC that from our side we will be more than keen to continue with Cal.
Do you think they will do only 1 year contracts, or will they look to 2? I mean, does it? It must change things, this current situation.
I know that Cal already started to get in touch with HRC about that, and I know that HRC asked Cal to be patient a couple of more weeks. I mean, and I believe that they will. They must. They must go for making a decision. So. In reality, as we are using the factory bike, as we do have a factory bike, at the very end, they will decide which rider needed to deserve to ride this factory bike. Also, they will pay the rider. So somehow we can only say yes, with this rider we have the full support of our sponsor, or with that rider we will have not the full support from our sponsor. This is what perhaps we can say to HRC. But again, it's something that I believe will be clarified in a couple of weeks.
What was it like? We had Cal on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. And obviously we've only started this podcast recently because everyone was in lockdown, and it's nice. It's a good chance to speak to people outside the paddock. And we know, for example, Cal, inside the paddock, sometimes he's very focused on his work, and he can be a particular, a unique kind of character. But outside, we had a great chat with him on the podcast. But we were wondering, and this is why we wanted to speak to you as very soon after speaking to Cal. What's he like? What's it like to work with him?
Cal, it's in some. I mean, we did work with Cal. This is our 6th season working with Cal, which is quite a record, for us and also for him to work on consecutively for 6 seasons in a row with the same. We pretty know each other very well, and working with him is, in my opinion, it's very good because Cal know exactly until what is important for the race, for the racing. I mean, Cal know that if we have to do an important sponsor activity, he never say no. Cal know how much important it is to be fit at the beginning of the season. Cal know how much important it is to be to take risk on special moments where it can really make the difference. Like some races, some tricky races that we had in Brno, where we won, or in Argentina or in Germany. We did excellent races. So working with him, in my opinion, is very good, because he know what to do, and of course he always try, whenever it's possible, he try to skip to do not fundamental things like I don't know, for example, Dorna events,
Yeah.
and other things that maybe he doesn't really consider necessary, But honestly speaking, every time I had a chat with him requesting to do some activity, he always been there, and he never say no, and he was always very cooperative. He is very professional with the team, very good. Is very good also to keep the team happy, because he always have a nice word with the guys after the race. He congratulates everybody after the race. He apologize when he do a mistake after the race. He's very honest, He's very honest also with the team, and everybody has an excellent in the team garage, in the garage. Everybody has an excellent relationship with him.
It's funny, 'cause that's how we see him, Gav. He's very honest, isn't he? You know what I mean?
You know what he's thinking.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't like that, because sometimes he doesn't put like a bit of false what people want to hear.
Yeah, he doesn't polish something, does he?
He doesn't polish it, yeah, and sometimes people don't like him for that. We like him for his honesty. So Lucio, you started, obviously you was a very successful racer yourself, but you started your own team early whilst you were still racing back in 1996. It took you 10 years as a team owner to end up in MotoGP as a team owner, and you had Casey Stoner in your first year. He almost won a race that year back in 2006. He finished second in Turkey to Marco Melandri in that fantastic race. But it was another 10 years before your first ever MotoGP win, the pinnacle to win a MotoGP race as a team manager. Tell me what that felt like, because it had been a 20-year journey as a team manager to win your first MotoGP race. What was it like?
Yes, that's why I have this picture inside of my below on the back of my desk, because it means a lot for me. It means a lot. That day it means a lot, because it's it's some kind of adventure, of journey that if I think about how much work, sacrifice, risks, kilometers, planes, and meetings, and hour of work I have done to reach.
All the small talk when you're talking to people you don't want to talk to, potential sponsors that don't even happen, all those hours.
Yeah, that, believe me, that was a massive work for me, and also for all my staff. That day was a really fantastic day. Honestly, when we arrived in MotoGP with Casey, we had a special rider. We knew that we had a special riders, but we didn't expect to be so competitive. So we were quite shocked to make the pole position at the first race in Qatar, to fight for the victory in the second race in Turkey, to fight for the podiums during other races in that year. But I definitely felt like it was too easy. It was like, wow, it's we arrive in MotoGP, bang, pole position in the first race ever in MotoGP class. It's is fantastic, but on the other side, I felt like almost not real,
Yeah,
And
I understand.
now I feel that it's, we earned that
Yeah.
victory. We earned
Yeah.
that 3 victories with Cal. We earned it because we worked a lot. We organized the team on a, let's say, the most professional way we could organize. We selected the team personnel at the best. We collected and studied a lot of data during that years with working with Honda, because of course is since from 2006 is our 15 years in the MotoGP class working with Honda. So we have a lot of data. We know very well the LCV machine. So yes, it was fantastic and it was a memorable day. It was like for me landing in the moon.
I can imagine as well. Landing in the moon as well with a homemade rocket.
And was it what you expected? Because sometimes it's not what you expect, if that makes sense. Like the emotion of achieving the ultimate goal of, wow, we won. Did it feel like you expected?
As a racer, I had already some special feeling of being in the podium, make a special results, be the first, be the best. Of course, in a different category, but the sensation, to be on the podium, it's you never forget. And when I had the opportunity to go in the podium in Czech Republic, our first victory, which corresponded the first victory after 35 years for a British rider.
Mm-hmm. We remember it well.
Yeah.
Yes, was a fantastic feeling, and it took me back like 20 years. It took me back like 20 years when I had my first podium in the World Championship with my small Honda in the 125 class in Jarama. It was a lot of how you say in English, biri, feeling like ticklets, in the skin,
Goosebumps.
Yeah, like goosebumps.
Yeah,
goosebumps. Yeah.
I can imagine as well. There's got to be a lot of pride because of the work you've put in, as you said, but also that you've brought together a team of people, all your staff, all your crew, all these people have come together and you've all achieved your objective. That's for me. There's something that you've been at the head of all that must feel. Yeah, it must have been a proud day. And obviously it's happened again since. It happened in Australia, happened again in Argentina, as you mentioned, and you almost collapsed on the pit wall. I remember we got the shots of, I think you were ripping open Beefy's shirt as you were falling down on the pit wall. But we know how much you live and breathe it, don't you? Still, it's almost like you're still riding, isn't it, Lucio?
Yes, when I am behind of the pit wall, when I'm inside of our canopy, honestly, there are a lot of time that, believe or not, with my head, I am on that bike. I am on that bike with my rider, and I like, okay, now I have to lean, now I have to brake, now I have to open the throttle, now I have to do not turn back, now I have to do this, now I have that. Come on, Cal. That it's I'm there with I'm still riding with my head.
Brilliant.
And this is fantastic for me because it's a passion that is still there, and despite I'm not riding anymore with my soul, with my heart, I'm there on that bike with my rider, and I'm missing a lot this.
Over the years, you've managed, as a team manager, you've had so many incredible riders. I've got a list of like Nobby Ueda, Alex De Angelis, Roberto Locatelli, Matteo Pessini, De Punier, Carlos Checa, Eugene Lavati, Tony Elias, Stoner, Brodel, Jack Miller, Taka Nakagami, obviously Cal. Tell us has there been a standout? Has there been where you go, and it might not, I mean, I'm assuming people will think, he's going to say Stoner, clearly Stoner, because obviously Stoner is Stoner, but has there been a standout with anybody else where you think maybe he didn't reach his full potential or what?
But every rider, every rider had something special to me. I can have, of course, something special and something that perhaps I didn't share or I didn't like. Every rider has his own history, his own riding style, his working style. I would say that there was a lot of qualities for me by a lot of riders, by good quality by a lot of riders. Of course, if we are talking in the pure talent point of view, I would say Stoner was the most talented rider ever, I think, in the last 2 decades. In terms of pure talent, perhaps even more talented than Marquez, in my opinion.
Why though? That's the question. Is why? Because you see what we can't see. Obviously, we watch the races, but what I mean is you can see data or you can hear what he says. Why? What was it? What did you see?
What I experienced with Stoner, it was something that I never experienced, I never seen in other riders, like Marquez, for example. Imagine you jump on a MotoGP machine in Qatar for the first race. You have been not participating at the second winter test because you had arm pump problems. You arrive in Qatar on Friday morning. You landed at 9:20 in Doha when the practice started at 10 o'clock because you miss 2 correspondences on joining Doha. You slept in the airport on the floor on Thursday night and Friday morning. I took him, I collected him from the airport, pick up him from the airport, drove at full speed from the airport to the racetrack. While he was putting the leather, he didn't have time to talk with the mechanics, to say anything to anybody. Elisa Pina, our Pina, was giving him some coffee while he was putting his leather on. Jump on the bike, never seen Doha racetrack, Los Air racetrack, and after 3 laps, best lap. After 50 minutes, best lap. After the session, best lap. After the qualifying, first pole position. It's something that it's wow. This kid is in terms of pure speed, in terms of he doesn't need the time to familiarize with the bike and to understand the limit of the bike. He doesn't really need time. Another things that with Stoner happened, for example, it was in Laguna Seca. Laguna Seca is a pretty hard racetrack with a MotoGP machine, especially corkscrew. How are you saying?
Yeah, corkscrew. Yeah.
Corkscrew.
It's a technical racetrack, very technical place.
Yeah, and then I remember we arrived there. And then I remember that Mr. Espeleta arrived on Thursday in our pit garage and said, "Hey, Kizzy, you want to jump on the bike and in the car with me? Then we are going to see the racetrack." And he looked at the Espeleta and said, "No, I don't need." He never saw the track. Never saw the track. He said that they saw the track on television, and was enough. He never saw the track. And then at the Friday morning, it was Casey Stoner, Nicky Hayden, and Colin Edwards. You know.
Wow.
So it's something that you cannot understand how this kid was could do such special things. It was simply natural talent, talented. It was a fantastic how he was able to understand the racetrack, the bike, you know, the limit of the bike in just couple of laps. It's a natural, pure talent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd had him as well as a 16-year-old on a 250, which at the time, I remember all our minds were blown when he was on that 250 in his rookie season, which was one at the time. We were all shaking our heads at it. And yeah, I bet there were so many things from Casey over the years. But you were riding when he was first in your team, wasn't it? You were still in 125s winning races while all of it was going on.
Yeah. Well, my story, you know, everybody in the paddock know my story. I started racing when I was, you know, I was already 19 years old, so I was old. I was my parents didn't allow me to go racing, so I needed to wait. Then when I arrived in the World Championship, I had a couple of years with a private team, and it was very, very hard. And then I decided, because I was already 25, I decided to set up my own team. And then, of course, as I understood that I wasn't naturally talented, I understood that my future, I could have a great future in the paddock, having a team, running a team, instead of being a successful rider. So I said, okay, I continue to race as much I can, as much I enjoy, and as much I can be competitive. But at the same time, let me start to grow the team and to have other riders. This was good and bad, depending the point of view, because it was good because this allowed me to develop my team and to of course to set up a future for my work. I work for the future. On the other side, it took me a lot of energy. Definitely took a lot of.
I can imagine. You know, riding and then having to manage all the other side of things at the same time. But do you feel like you're only happy, Lucio, when you are busy 24 hours a day? Because you're a workaholic, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't like this this word like workaholic. I'm extremely passionate about my job, about racing, about motorcycles, about everything. So honestly, I feel lucky because I enjoy living here at the workshop, enjoying travel, going around the world, and spend the time traveling for making the races. I enjoy share the dinner with my crew. I enjoy talk with the riders. I enjoy talk with engineers. I enjoy talk with the sponsors. So I feel extremely lucky because for the other people looks like I'm a workaholic, but on the other
no, not a work alcoholic, a workaholic.
But still, addicted to
Lucio,
working.
But Gav, essentially, Lucio is a winner.
Yeah.
And he's obsessed with trying to win, and he'll do whatever it takes. And Lucio, like lots of team owners in the paddock, are the same. You know, they've got an incredible passion. If you don't have that passion, if you don't want to win, you do something else, don't you? That's not the job for you. And, you know, like we just explained before earlier, like, you know, Lucio, it took him 10 years in MotoGP to get that first win, but it was worth it. You know what I mean? All that work, all that sacrifice, and I totally get it. One question to you, Lucio, is what's the best part of being the team manager? What's the bit you really enjoy?
I mostly enjoy to make the technical debrief with my crew chiefs. This I like a lot because in my head, I'm still inside of my soul. I'm still a rider, and I like very much to try to understand what are the technical report, what are the rider feelings, the rider comments, what is the next strategy of the crew chief. I like very much to talk with the engineers, looking at the data and trying to understand how the latest technology to set up the engine controls. So I really enjoyed that part. So technically, I'm very interested, and for me is the best things.
Out of all the riders you've worked with, Lucio, who's the best technically? Because, as an ex-rider myself, you always think, I wonder if my feedback was good. I wonder what other riders say. I wonder how technical or not technical they are. With your experience over the years, who's been the person that gives you probably the best feedback?
The best feedback, of course, is there is an evolution of the sport. There is in the last years, the technically the bike became more and more complex and more difficult to tune.
Yeah,
especially because, as you know,
the electronics,
the power getting more and more. And then you need a fine tuning of the electronics and the tools to tune the power delivery and the engine brake are more and more complex. And tune the power delivery by considering each corner of the racetrack, considering the lean angle, considering the tire slip, considering the way how the rider pick up the bike. So it's very complex. I must say that I am impressed. I'm really impressed how Cal is providing precise information regarding the bike setup. I'm really impressed because it's very detailed, and that's why I believe that he did a long career with Honda, and hopefully he will continue to work with Honda, because they recognize also that he was and he is extremely helpful to develop the bike because he's very precise.
Yeah, which is obviously proved valuable in terms of developing a bike how you have such a character like Marc Marquez, who has such a unique style, a unique way of riding, and Cal is that, if he's got that good feedback and can be that the middleman, the neutral man that makes the bike a better package as a whole, that's obviously valuable for them there at Honda. When you were just talking there about you riding and managing at the same time, am I right in thinking you won the Italian Grand Prix was your last Grand Prix win, Lucio? Is that correct? I think it was.
Yes.
How does that compare then to the elation, the moment, of winning, not only winning another Grand Prix, but winning at home in Italy?
Well, first of all, winning a Grand Prix is always special. But what was extremely special for me was to win on the racetrack where you started for the very first time, competing. You won a Grand Prix in front of thousands of your fans, of your supporters. You won a Grand Prix in a place which is considered one of the temple of racing, So it was a really special. I would say the joy was the happiness, and the feeling was special, as almost as the first victory. The first victory is still slightly the top one.
Really?
Yes, the first victory, yes.
Is that the one you remember above all others then? When was that? Because was that 98?
98, Harama, 98.
Yeah.
Yes, this was a special, very special feeling because, again, in that moment, it was like the feeling that I won a bet because 2 years before, 96, I started with my own team. Many people and even some supporters said to me, "You are crazy. It's better you go racing with some existing team already organized." And then I said, "No, I prefer to set up my own team because I want to work with with people which I believe, I trust, and I had already my own vision, my own idea." And again, I also wanted to establish something to assure me a future in the paddock after my racing career, which I knew that it couldn't be very long because I started late, and also because I didn't add the talent, that like other riders had. So it was a fantastic feeling because it was like, wow, I have made a crazy choice. I have took a lot of risk, and now I prove myself. I prove myself that that was the right decision, and it make you sense of proudness, which is which is fantastic.
It's funny because Gav, it's hard to explain, but I genuinely mean this. Mm-hmm. That sensation you get when you stand on the top of a podium and you've won your first world championship race, that what dreams are made of, and you've tried so hard for so long and dedicated your life to it, and you've had all the injuries and you've had the sleepless nights. When you achieve it, the endorphin release in your body, that chemical release, nothing in life, apart from the closest thing was when my daughter was born and I was in the hospital and you're there and that overwhelming experience comes. That's the only thing that ever came close to that first victory. And that's basically what Lucio's talking about. It's that you can't, anything else you do in life, and that could be, for me, I'm only talking personally, but I've been spoke to other racers, if you buy a new house or get a new girlfriend or whatever, your football team wins, and it's for Leeds to win the Premier League still wouldn't be the same feeling as you personally achieving your lifetime goal. Nothing comes close to it. And that's why I think a lot of people struggle after racing, because you can't get that endorphin release again to that level. Obviously, Lucio has, basically, by being able to be a team manager, a team owner of a MotoGP winning team. That's as close as you can get. But still, that's not quite the same. That's basically what Lucio's saying.
Absolutely.
Interesting, isn't it? Interesting, really, that.
Oh, it is. And the chance of Leeds winning the Premier League is very remote at this moment in time. But anyway, I completely get it. I mean, my lifetime goal was to work on TV with you, Neil. And look at that. Look at how that's worked out.
And so you get the endorphin release every time you're working with me. You're so lucky. I do remind you a lot. You're a very lucky man.
Yeah, thank you.
I think is it time for the big question?
It's time. It is time. I felt it then. Just on that heartfelt introduction that you gave there, Neil. I think it should be time for you to ask the big questions to Lucio.
Okay, Lucio, just so you understand how this works, obviously, first of all, thanks for giving us your time. It's been really interesting hearing the stories, but the main part of the podcast is my quick fire round question. Big, deep, hard-hitting, probably questions you've not been asked before, and I'm gonna challenge you Obviously we challenge each other on the track a little bit, but I think this is going to push you even further. So are you ready?
Shall I must get scared or?
You should be very nervous.
As long as you're sat down, you'll be fine.
Sit down and just be ready for some very big questions. Right. First of all, when you was a child at home, what posters did you have on your bedroom wall?
I had the poster of Carlos Lavado.
Wow.
Fantastic.
The poster of Pier Francesco Chili.
Oh, Frankie. I love Frankie.
Yes, and the poster of Anton Mang.
Tony Mang.
And the poster of Cork Ballington.
Wow.
And
brilliant.
The poster of Fausto Gresini.
Wow. Does Fausto know this now?
Sorry?
I said, does Fausto know that he was on your bedroom wall?
I told him on an interview we had together a couple of years ago, and yes, he was surprised, and But this is true. This is true.
Brilliant.
I love that.
I love Carlos. Carlos Lavado is a character.
Yeah, he is a character. He could ride. Wow.
With the yellow Yamaha HB and 250. Yes. And then I told also Carlos that I had a poster in my bedroom, and then he was so nice, and then he brought me another poster of him with the Dedica, So
brilliant.
And believe or not, it's one of the frame that I am going to hang on the wall here in the workshop today, because he's on the floor together with other posters that will be hung on the floor in the wall today.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's a good one. Do you know? You won't know this, but Gavin, when he was a child, on his wall he had a picture of David Hasselhoff. So, but we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. It's everybody's different.
I just love Knight Rider. All right.
Nobody's perfect.
No, but it was Baywatch. He was in his speedos, but that's another story. So, Lucio, me and Gavin, we're going to take you to the pub and we're going to have a big session. What's your drink? What are you drinking? Gav's buying.
Well, I do not like alcohol like whiskey or vodka. For me, it's too hard, too heavy, too hard. I like on top there is a red wine, and then second there is champagne, and third there is a beer.
Okay.
Which red wine do you like?
Brunello di Montalcino.
Di Montalcino.
Oh, yeah.
Lovely.
Me too. Lovely. A pint of that, you feel great. Right. So
this is exactly, this is another secret, but I had 4 boxes of Brunello di Montalcino, and I drank in that period every evening, and then now is finished, and then my hospitality staff came here to look at the stock, and they said, "Where is finish of the Brunello?" I said, "In my stomach."
In my liver.
Fantastic. Good man.
Yeah.
Obviously.
It is also an expensive wine that fortunately we got as a present from a sponsor, but now it's not anymore a sponsor, so now we need to buy, Then I was
brilliant. So, Lucio, you've been out on a big drinking session, right, with all the riders that have ridden for you. So you've been out with that long list of riders, your Nobby Ueders, Carlos Checkers, all that lot. Yeah. And the night is finished, right? You've had a fantastic night, a big session. It's been a big party. Everybody's drunk. And you go and get a big taxi, right? Yeah. You are sat in the taxi with all the riders. Out of all the riders, who is the first rider to offer to pay for the taxi? Nobody. No rider.
You point to something which is very strange, because I don't know why, but riders in general they have a very short hand, you know.
So true. I could not agree with you more, Lucio.
I don't understand. I really don't understand why riders are, you know. Maybe because maybe Ueda is going to pay.
I bet it would
yeah.
be knobby. You know it would be knobby.
It would be
you're
knobby.
so right. Riders have short arms, long pockets, and they love a freebie. Riders love a freebie. A free
they
T-shirt,
expect a freebie.
anything. Yeah, they expect a freebie.
So Nobby would be the first to offer to pay. Who would be the first person to suggest, hey, listen, guys, when we stop, we all run? Without paying, obviously.
Cal. For sure. But about paying, let me say something. This is true. I must say that without going to detail of names, but I had some riders, you know, that brought me tickets of €1.20 for a coffee, you know, to be, you know,
to be reimbursed.
And I have riders like Cal that never brought me any ticket. But I believe that Cal didn't bring me any ticket because not because he's generous, because simply he hates to, you know, to look at the numbers and to collect tickets and so on.
He can't be bothered with that. Do you know what? I was teammates with John Kaczynski in 1996, and I'll never forget. We was on a car park in Monterey, and we left the car park, and we've been driving for about 15 minutes, and he went, fuck. I went, what? He said, I didn't get a receipt for the car park. And I went, what do you mean? He went, so Ducati will have to pay where, you know, we was on the car park. I went, but how much was the car park? And he said, it was like $1.70. And I went, it's no big deal. And he went, no, we'll go back. And he turned around and went back to try to get a receipt for $1.70. And at the time, he would have been being paid maybe $500,000.
Well, you've seen his house. That's how he has a house like that, Neil, that we saw.
Yeah, exactly.
It was in that housing magazine.
I couldn't believe it. Right. We're still in the taxi, by the way.
Oh, right,
so
okay.
You're in the taxi still. Who is the rider that falls asleep?
Fall asleep, Tony Elias.
Tony Elias.
Yeah.
Who is the rider that is sick? Because he's had too much to drink.
Eugene Laverty.
We'll give Eugene some stick.
We'll give him some stick about that. Right, next question. We've nearly finished with the questions. So, where I come from, Lucio, the saying is, you can tell the character of a man by what pizza he orders. Now, for example, I'll give you an example. Gav loves a Hawaiian pizza, ham and pineapple. You know, I'll say no more. What is your pizza order?
My favorite pizza. You ask me my favorite pizza?
Yeah.
Yes. Gav's a Hawaiian pizza.
Yeah. My favorite pizza is pizza with sausages.
With what?
Sausage, yeah.
With
salsicha.
Oh, with sausage, like spicy sausage.
No spicy.
No. So you like sausage pizza? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, your Hawaiian is better.
I like normally I take always the pizza margherita, but when you know I'm really hungry. Pizza with sausage. Yeah.
Pizza with sausage. Right. Just two more questions to go. Valentino Rossi or Marc Marquez? It's a difficult one for you.
No. Well, it's not difficult. Marc Marquez, because in every sport there is an evolution of the sport. There is an evolution of the riding style. There is there is just a natural evolution, and I truly believe that Valentino, we should make a monument of him in every circuit we are going to race, because Valentino brought the motorcycle racing, at another level, at another stage. He helped to make the motorsport, the MotoGP, so popular, incredibly popular. So it's a fantastic. But if you look how the sports, developed, I would say Marc Marquez, because he just put the level of the sport higher, because before there was riders that was able to slide with the rear tire, like in the back in the 80s and the 90s, and then after there has been riders able to slide with both tires, and then now there is a market that is losing the front tire, and then is naturally is technically recover, because is not a move that is simply made by luck,
Yeah.
This is a technical, a technique that I believe that, for example, the riders of Valentino era do not have,
Yeah.
And I believe that Marc will inspire the new rider generation to do that. So we will see in the future riders that move more and more.
Yeah, that technique being used. Yeah, I agree. Last question. This is the main question, really. This is like if you was in a competition, if you were doing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, this would be the £1 million question.
Wow.
Right, are you ready? So, Lucio Cecchinello, who is your favourite person that you've raced against in the past, but now works as a TV pundit for a UK broadcaster?
What?
Do you want me to repeat the question?
No. I have the straight answer. Neil Oxon.
What? Yeah. Lucio, my work here is done. Again, thank you, sir. What a pleasure this has been. Oh.
As you can see, Lucio, very serious, very important questions. Now that we know that you like a salamine pizza, and that Eugene Laverty can't take his alcohol, which I'm very surprised at from an Irishman like Eugene. Lucio, we have to thank you for joining us. You've been with us an hour. We really appreciate your time, because we know how busy you are. We know you've got so much work to do at the moment. We're not only sorting out your workshop and your offices, but getting the season sorted. And I just hope that we all get going in the middle of July and we get some good racing, and we can see Cal back up there, and Taka too, because I think Taka's got a chance to go even further this year after what he showed after his operation this year. But we appreciate you joining us, Lucio, and we do wish you all the best, and that racing gets going for you and your staff.
Thank you so much. And again, it was a pleasure to spend this hour with you.
Thank you, Lucio. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you again. Look forward to seeing you again, friend.
Bye.
Ciao, Lucio. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Grazie. Oh, it was great. I found out some fantastic things then, Neil. Some of the information. I mean, yeah, just brilliant. Some of the stories about. I've heard that story about Casey turning up in Qatar before, going on to take pole position that first weekend in Qatar. But just the little things, little tales behind the scenes. There's someone who I don't think you're going to meet someone who's got. I think he said it, passion for the sport, but it's all from love of motorcycling, isn't it?
It really is. Good call getting him on. It's so nice to get that, to get the answers. You ask the questions, and normally, obviously, the problem for us with BT Sport is you've got so little time with people. Like you'd ask him a question, you go like, so who's the most talented rider you've had? Oh, Stoner, and that's the end of the question. And then you've to move on, haven't you, to get some question, to try and create a 5-minute interview or a 3-minute interview, where it's so nice to hear him elaborate on that and tell stories. And see, I'd heard bits of that story, but I'd not heard it all. The one about Stoner arriving late, and
he didn't. One thing he didn't mention is Casey was ill that weekend too. So he'd had the arm pump. He had a flu, And he turned up at the airport 45 minutes before first practice and ended up on pole position. And
basically, he was saying that he thinks he was even more naturally talented than bloody Marquez. I mean, it's just... And I trust what Lucio's saying. He's there working with, he's worked with these people for years, and he knows a lot. If he's talking, I'm listening, that's for sure.
But also, the interesting about Cal and talking about contracts that they're talking already, we know, I mean, Cal said himself that they're talking about things, but that they're, it sounds to me like that'll happen.
Yeah, he absolutely. I thought that. I was smiling to myself when he was saying that. I'm thinking that this sounds like a really positive. Not it's a done deal. It's still too early to be saying anything like that. But they're so positive. They love him, don't they? They absolutely love him
because of the feedback. Because he's I won't say neutral rider, because he has to adapt a certain style, but he's the more normal rider. Is that doesn't sound? I don't mean that to sound bad. What I mean is he's the one that can develop their bike more than Mark can.
Yeah. Well, I think we've probably all been a bit guilty. I'll hold my hand up and say, well, I didn't think Cal was that technical. I think Cal's a bit old school, grabs it by the scruff of the neck, and he'll as to use a Keith Ewan saying, force it to fit sort of rider. But he's clearly not, because Lucio basically said that. The question was, who's the most technical rider you've worked with? And he says Cal. And Lucio in PR, well, he's PR savvy, but he wouldn't fill us with shit on that one. I don't think that's him telling you, because I thought he might have gone actually Eugene Laverty, because I know Eugene's quite technical. Yeah. You know what I mean? For example, or he might look at one of the riders he's worked with in the past. And it's interesting for him to say, and when he says it, he knows the bikes now are so much more difficult to ride. Or they're more technical to set up, not difficult to ride. So technical to set up. And I see that with Alex Lowe's, because I manage Alex Lowe's, I've been sat in so many of his debriefs, and it's hour after hour, and that's just on electronics. And sometimes we'll come back to the motorhome, and I'll say to Alex, you've not really talked about suspension. And like back in my day, it was all suspension.
It was all suspension, yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And he's like, oh yeah, no, I do need to mention this. But the electronic side of it is so bloody complicated. There are millions of permutations. So that's why they've become so technical, but so much harder to get the perfect setting.
Yeah, it's like you've got your toolbox, and in your day there was one spanner, there was one screwdriver, and a drill or something. And nowadays you've got 15 different types of spanners, 15 different types of screwdrivers, and it's just everything's multiplied.
In my day, with a big hammer and a little hammer. And we just always seem to use a little hammer when it was for me. So, but that don't mean anything.
And that's just on your head.
Hey, what about you liked it with a David Hasselhoff, didn't you? You were like...
Well, actually, do you know what? I didn't have David Hasselhoff, but I had a poster of Street Hawk. Do you remember Street Hawk?
Yeah.
I did have a poster of that. I had lots of Leeds United players. And they will win the Premier League sooner rather than later. So up yours is all I say.
Yeah.
Also, I think I better leave you to get back, because I don't know. We could hear in the background. It sounded like Brogy was on with a wheelbarrow. It sounded like a wheelbarrow in the background.
That's exactly what was happening, and his two lads were helping out as well. So it was starting to get a bit noisier. So that's why I moved into.
I thought I heard you move back into the car. So anyway, hopefully you could hear all. Just a couple of times Lucio dipped out, but I'm sure it was.
Oh no, it sounded good to me.
Yeah. Right. Good to me. Right. Well, I better let you get back to dig in some holes.
Hey, thanks, Gav. Honestly, I really enjoyed that, and don't forget, I love you, mate.
Right, yeah. Hope you all enjoyed Lucio too. We've got another podcast coming soon. Hodgie's promised. See you all. Bye.
Ciao.